Remembrance and Veterans Day is a time when the world comes together to reflect upon the service and the sacrifice of millions and the horror of the tragedy of a war 75 years ago now that forever shaped the world we live in. At the end of World War I, Remembrance and Veterans Day was created. When it was created, it was unimaginable that another war like that could ever happen again. Nevertheless, just 21 years later, after World War I ended, the largest conflict in human history, burned up half the world and took some 56 million lives. VJ Day ended the Earth's longest and most terrifying struggle for freedom. But that was a long time ago. 75 years have passed since then, and a lot of people often say now, after the passage of such time, why should we keep up the traditions of Remembrance Day and Veterans Day and Anzac Day? I believe the answer is summed up in 3 simple words: lest we forget. We must never forget those who went to war and fought and suffered in so many ways, and those who died for the freedom that we enjoy here in Taiwan and in our home countries today. To me, the POWs in Taiwan are very representative of all the veterans on this day. They were just young men in peacetime who were called to war suddenly and violently, and they made great personal sacrifices in serving. In remembering the Taiwan POWs and all those who fought, and honoring those men, it is all about their sacrifice. Sacrifice is a part of military service. You sign up with the understanding that you might be called to serve, might be called to go to war. You might be not coming back. It doesn't matter what occupational specialty you have or job skills or why you signed up. The enemy doesn't care about this. So this is why we should remember veterans on this day, those who sacrificed themselves and gave the last full measure of devotion to their country. On Remembrance and Veterans Day, we remember those who, when their country asked, who will give their lives to defend us? And they said, "Here am I, send me." We thank them not only for their sacrifice, but for their example, for inspiring countless young men and women to answer the call of duty like they once did, for teaching us the value of service, for showing us the true meaning of honor. We thank them for leaving us a better world than the one they inherited. I can never fully understand what those brave men and women in uniform experienced. Sorry about technical difficulties. I can never fully understand what those brave men and women in uniform experienced, but I will never forget. Only those who threw themselves into the battles know the full extent of what unfolded 75 years ago. But it's the responsibility of all of us who remain today that we can only spend our lives honoring them and remembering them and feeling privileged to have known them. They fought back against fascism, against authoritarianism, and against oppression. They risked everything so those of us in our succeeding generations would never have to know what they could never forget, and so we could live in peace. How do you thank someone enough for your existence and that of your children, and for all the freedoms and opportunities that we all take so much for granted today? And now we also want to add to that list those who fought in subsequent conflicts: Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the other so-called peacekeeping activities of our time. Those of us who weren't there will never know the horrors of battle, the fear, the loss of mates, and the suffering that those who have been on the front lines have known. But we can stand with them to support them and honor them for their service and their sacrifice. And this we must do, or that service, that sacrifice, and in many cases their deaths, will have been in vain. I'm thrilled today as I stand here with this large crowd to see all who have come to pay their respects to those who gave so much for our freedom, and to honor and remember them. This year, in all of our society activities, we have had a larger than ever attendance. And so this shows me that after so many years, people are now learning and are once again realizing the importance of remembering. such as we are doing here today. For many years, as I met and talked with the former Taiwan POWs during my research into their story, the one thing that was most important and came through most often from them was that they would not be forgotten. That they as POWs would have their place in history and be remembered along with those who fought in the battles and won the victories. I'm happy to see that after all these years, all who are gathered here this morning, and many more, still want to remember and honor those to whom we owe a debt that can never be repaid. Thank you all for coming and being a special part of their remembrance today. And remember, dying for freedom isn't the worst thing that can happen. Being forgotten is.